everyone, welcome to this week's edition of Elevate Your Week. I'm Chris here with Brent and Anna from BornCreative. Today we're going to talk a little bit about how they got their start in their business, their brand, what their brand means to them, and a little bit of information about some of their history in the photography industry and respectively in the videography industry. So how you guys doing today?
We're good. How are you?
Doing good.
I'm doing great. So my first question, we'll start with you, Brent. Brent is the founder of BornCreative. What was your reasoning behind starting this clothing line?
Yeah, so it was an interesting little thing. I was actually reading scripture one day, and I was reading through Hebrews and came across this verse that describes God as the designer and builder. And for me at the time, it just kind of was like a moment where my mind was like, wait a minute, that's interesting. Like describing the creator of the universe as the designer. For me at the time, I was designing t-shirts and I was doing a lot of graphic design in my free time. And for me, it just had that moment where something connected, and I was just like, whoa,
Yeah.
like that's really cool that like I'm kind of emulating something that my creator has already been about. You know, he's designed and created the world, and me, and I'm sitting here having this moment of the connecting that point, I guess. So for me, it started there, and that was about 3 years ago. And about a year and a half into this, I started thinking, I'm like, this is not just about me. A lot of things that for me, I don't believe it's things like that. Those kind of nuggets are not just for me, like for me to keep it to myself or whatever. So as the idea evolved, I started thinking, I'm like, wait a minute, like we're all created, or we're all created, born creative, and that's where that term kind of came from. So I've really just settled on this idea that every person is born creative, and that's something I think that we should enjoy and celebrate. And some people just really need to be reminded, I guess, in the creative field especially, like it's not just that you trained really hard and got somewhere. I mean, that's a very important element too. But the reality, I think, for everybody in tough times and even in success, be reminded, like, in a way, you were born for this, and that's really cool, and that's something to really enjoy and be celebrate. I think it's a truth, you know what I'm saying? So for me, that's where this all really started.
Very cool. And so, I know that a lot of the background in the BornCreative identity and your idea for the platform is kind of centric around creatives, photographers, videographers, things of that nature.
Yes.
Being in the videography and photography industry, what is kind of like your guys' mission, so to speak?
Yeah. So the big thing that we started with, we wanted to start with a podcast, and it's, people have kind of come alongside me to like help get to where we are today. And we're in this clothing line, which has given us a really cool identity as far as like something people can invest in and wear to represent themselves. But originally it started off with just a podcast, and me and a good friend of mine, who's the other side of this business partnerage, and I were talking about the creative process and like understanding like how we work, because everybody has an individual like method on how they do their creative process.
Yeah.
But we started talking about the reality that like, Anna uses the term fake book, or like, how Instagram, everything looks like, oh man, you just like entered in a few keyframes and got that beautiful piece of art, you don't.
Yeah, they're on like a trip in Europe, but realistically they're sitting on their couch in their pajamas, posting on Facebook.
Yeah. So we kind of got into this place where we're like, man, we just feel like, and some people do, I don't want to deny that it's not out there, but I think that from a general global sense, there's not a big talk about the process and how difficult it is sometimes, So
yeah, Go ahead. Sorry.
Okay. So he and I were just talking about, like, we just sat down and talked about what we struggled with and what was going on, and we just started realizing, like, wow, it was easier for us, because he and I are both videographers. It was easier for us to work together and come up with ideas because we started understanding like what we struggled with. And we started like having these much better conversations about what we wanted to accomplish, because we knew like where each other struggled and what was difficult about our processes. And I think there was this kind of switch, something just changed in how we worked together and whatnot, when we started being honest about where we come short and where we're, get hung up. And it became a really big deal for us. So that's where we wanted to start, is really like, to be honest about the struggles and embrace them so that we can, as a brand, I think the idea there is to make sure that we're relatable. Like, we don't want to
Yeah.
seem like something that's unattainable. Like, be a part of this because you can't. It's about being with us. Like, we're creatives that have been through those struggles and those journeys. And then on the other side of that is, to celebrate the successes and learn on the way, So
100% agree. And it's kind of touch on one of the things you said, because I am a huge, firm believer in learning from past mistakes. I myself, as a creative, I've been in the wedding photography industry now for like 7 years, and I can't tell you how many mistakes I've made because there's too many to name. I probably have started, 6, 7 companies, and some of them have gone on to do great things. Some of them have gone on to do shit. And I think, keeping that positive mindset is so important to being able to grow a business. And like you said, understanding where some of your faults are, some of your weaknesses are, and bringing in those people, those team members to kind of help you develop. And I think a big part of that is the people you surround yourself with and the team that you bring in. Self-awareness is huge, understanding that there are weaknesses that you have. Same thing with me. I am the worst when it comes to social media. I had a meeting with my social media team the other day, and they're like telling me all this stuff I can do on like Instagram and shit. And I'm like, this is too much for me to take in. I'm like, you guys handle this, because I know that's one of my weaknesses. And that's kind of, I need to bring people in to kind of alleviate those things, because I know that there's, a ton of things that I am fully capable of doing and that I am good at, but there is a ton of things that, I'm not great at. Organization. I have my assistant who basically keeps everything in line, especially with our new platform and everything. Our social media manager is amazing. So, we built this team around everyone, even bringing in like course curriculum guides and stuff so that they could start developing courses and things like that. We brought in an educator who's going to kind of like, help develop these courses and make them really easy for people to learn. And so, even in starting this business, I realized there was so many different aspects that I needed to be covered. But I also know that I am just one single person and that it is not possible for me to try and do all of that. So I think having those other people to kind of, fill in those gaps is really important. And so my next question is, when you guys started, because you did pretty much start this like right at the beginning of the Corona pandemic.
Yep.
When you started it, was it out of fear of events not happening ever again, or what was your thought process behind everything? Was it just like the Corona break that like gave you guys the steam you needed to move forward with it?
Do you want to start?
Yeah, I'll start that. When everything happened, I was about to go on tour. I had about 3 months of work, and all of a sudden it was all gone. And so you have like that freak out moment, like, man, I should not have gotten into the photography industry. I'm going to go back to nursing school. Like I had that moment of just like, what the heck am I doing? Like being a freelancer in this time. And so I had my moment of just freaking out. And so then we actually just started dating. Yeah, we started dating during the pandemic. So like we met in January. So we were still super new. Yeah. Like we were just new relationship. And I think that we kind of talked and we sat down and we're like, okay, we can't work. We can't go anywhere. Everything's shut down. What can we do? And I think that we just took that time to learn. We got better at social media and we started taking courses online. We started just researching things that can bring passive income. We started putting ideas on a board and trying to see how we can make these dreams possible. So I think that like during quarantine, that was like our period of just like, we want to come out of this quarantine stronger and our business is better for it. So that's kind of like our mind frame or like our mindset. Do you agree?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, there was not really a fear moment as much as there was like,
what's the next thing I'm going to do?
What's the next thing I'm going to do? Or am I going to give up on my dreams and just because I going into the pandemic, I was only working part-time 2 days a week, and I'm still in that situation right now. But this job has given me the door to walk through to even say BornCreative could be a thing. I'm actually like I'm working as a printer doing T-shirts. So this is working with.
So it's perfect lineup.
Yeah. So and the company I'm working with, Millennial, who has been a huge proponent in getting us launched, and they've transitioned from being a clothing line by themselves to having brand partners, which is what we're becoming on their platform. So that was a little plug for Millennial for sure. But but no, I think there was just a point where I said, I don't believe any of these situations, as terrible as they may seem, that they have to stay terrible or we have to stay in a state of unrest or fear. I think that there's a point where, if we're wise and we manage our situation, which we won't get into any much of that, but if we do, at some point we will come out of this. And I think for me, the question was, well, what am I going to come out of this with? That really was what I left myself with. And I said, and I don't want to say that, I definitely don't want this to sound like I'm taking advantage of anybody, because that's not the reality of it. Because
Sure.
BornCreative, I hope one day is more about a community than it is about a t-shirt. I hope it's more about creatives coming together and working together than it is having the next shirt that you're going to wear on a night out. I don't care if eventually the shirts completely like fall off the wayside. And as we build this community, it becomes something much greater than a t-shirt. So the reality that I want to do is I want to get people in a place where there's something they look forward to. There's a community they look to spend their time engaging with and finding hope and coming out of this, with people that they can work alongside, maybe find jobs alongside. Maybe they build companies together. Who knows? But, for me, I think at the end of the day, it was just, what do I want to say that I did with my extra time? What did I wanted to say? I was given almost a month of completely no work. Like I was not going to work for that month. And he called me week in and week out. How can I pray for you? How are you doing? What's going on? What do you need? But I don't have work for you this week. An incredible relationship, there. But at the same time, I said I wanted my time to be worthwhile. I wanted to say, I was given time and I utilized it. And BornCreative, I think, is a big part of what that time has given to me. Is it gave me the time to say I have the confidence to say that the world needs to see this and needs to be given a chance to be a part of this.
Yeah, and I think that's great. And a big thing that I'm a firm believer in, and especially in times where, because I'm a wedding photographer, there's obviously zero of that happening right now. So it's definitely a big change, but I took it as a different approach than some, where everybody was like, weddings are dying, I need to go get a part-time job. No, weddings are done. The wedding industry isn't going anywhere. Yes, there's some slowdowns now this year, and a lot of people have canceled or rescheduled till next year, and so there's a lot less work this year. But I look at it in a sense of, hey, now I got this 3 months of quarantine to take a break and start working on something that I'm passionate about, or some other project that I'm passionate about, and really looking towards those different projects to kind of keep me fresh and keep me wanting to develop more businesses for myself, more businesses that can reach out to different communities and stuff. So I'm a big proponent in that. I think what you guys are doing is great, and I think it's really important to know that just because, like in your cases, event photography, videography, all that stuff's kind of falling at this point, and it's kind of in a limbo, and you don't know when it's really going to kick back up, and it can get a little scary. But I think showing that taking that time to kind of follow your passions rather than doing something based out of fear is really important to being able to grow as like a creative, and not even just as a creative, but as a business owner and as a person.
Yeah.
And you'd be surprised what you can do with just 2 solid months of hammering away. And I mean, it's clear to see with you guys. I that's why I reached out to you. I have been seeing all the posts and marketing stuff and pictures, and everything looks great. And I think it's really important that we kind of sit and really, really look at some of these small businesses that are coming up, because I think it's so important to show people, like you said, it's not rocket science. It's something that literally if you put the time, work, and effort into it, so many people are capable of doing it.
Yeah.
And it's just supporting yourself with that right team.
Yeah.
So kind of all, like, for me, it all circles back to that. I've grown businesses by myself, well over six figures. But at the same time, I sit and look and I'm like, well, it could have been so much more if I had the right team behind me. And at the time I didn't. So there's a lot of areas where I missed that could have caused my business to skyrocket. But, I was getting everything done as I could. And now, that it's been years and I've learned to surround myself with those team members and those people who are not going to like keep me in limbo, but rather lift me up and, elevate our business and elevate our mindsets and, really just focusing on, at the end of the day, rather than providing, photos for somebody, we're providing a service.
Yeah.
We want, it's their day. I'm not there to get portfolio work. I'm not there to, take all the pictures I want to take. While it's nice, and I do want to provide them with that same like quality and creativity and stuff that they see from me normally, the big forefront of my mind is, are they happy with the service? Is everything great? Because I think that's the most important part, when you really get out of that role of creative and move, because like I always considered myself, I'm a photographer who owns a business, but now I'm more, aligned with, I'm a business owner who is also a photographer. And I think having that kind of mentality when you go into an art-based industry where it, unless you have the experience behind you, it's very hard to get clients to book. And I think that having that behind you can kind of, like, that idea mindset of you're a business owner and a photographer is what's going to, make you successful in the long term rather than just in the short term. You can take great pictures, but if you're shitty at business, your business ain't going to last.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think those kind of things are really, really important to helping develop a business. And, were there any like hardships you guys, like while you were developing this business, any like hardships that you kind of faced or went through?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think for me, I went through a couple of phases of, I thought I had the people around me. And I think I want to make sure I clarify that sometimes it's not that people fail you. It's sometimes you get stuck in your head and you get like, oh, I want to like run this with these people. I want to walk this out.
And you just don't know how to delegate all these tasks to them because there's so many, but at the same time you're like, I can't let any of it go.
Yeah. Yeah. So I had a time when I had a few people I wanted to try this with, but one side of that like failure for me was like, I didn't have this idea cooked enough. Like I was still in that place of like, oh, I want to do something, but like, what am I doing? What is the end goal, or at least what is the means? And then where's my goal projected?
Your what and why.
Yeah, exactly. And I think I was not really as there as I needed to be. And I had some people that I was just like trying to pump up and I was trying to like bring into the fold, like, hey, let's do this. And I just had this like, kind of just like, come to Jesus moment, I guess you'd say. Like I realized that they were not in on it. And it really took me by surprise, because I was like, why wouldn't my friends want to make money and do something really cool that means something, and that could change lives? Like, I'm like, why wouldn't they want to do that? And it just got to a place where it's like, that was kind of my fault. Like I had not really done the work I needed to do and had something ready to go. It just wasn't there yet. And that's okay, but that was a hard point when I realized it's like not just anybody is set to jump in or be a part of something. You kind of have to, I guess, vet them a little bit to some degree, or you do what you do. You talk about what's on your head, or what's on your head, what's in your mind or on your heart. And then when people get excited about it, then you spend time there, and that was one thing with Anna, that changed a couple of months ago when I finally was like, hey, what if we started a clothing line alongside the podcast and let the podcast be the voice of the brand? Let the clothing line be a way we can get some of that message out there, but give people something that they can start, attaching to. And obviously, it's not a bad idea to start, pulling some money in. So the big things and the the costly things that you need to do as a business can be taken care of and funded, you know. So I think that was probably one of the hardest things, is realizing that not just anybody is built for it, and not just anybody will want to do it, even if you have an incredible idea and an incredible sales pitch about what you want to do as a business. It's just not everybody that wants to do it. And talking with Anna about it, that's when she started to kind of catch the vision, I guess, because I tried to do these podcasts in March, and she was like, okay, cool, you know, do your podcast. But like, I don't know if she was really like bought in at that moment, which is fine. I mean, it's totally okay. But I think it was, you know, it was about a month and a half, 2 months ago, and she just like, something caught her attention, and she was all in.
It was the clothing line.
Yeah.
It was.
Maybe it simply was just the clothing line, because she loves startups, she loves doing things, and she loves clothing lines. That's one thing that's like, it's always kind of been like a behind, like, I think live show photography, clothing lines would be kind of the next thing that she really, really enjoys, like working with clothing lines and stuff. So it was just, that moment was like a real, I guess, like solid moment of like, I'm about to step forward, you know. So that was really awesome. But it really does, you know, when someone steps beside you and says, hey, let's do this, like, it can be one of the most empowering moments, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. And, you know, I kind of, in the same sense as you know, we've had numerous people who have worked with us on this project and everything. And it gets to a point where it's like, okay, well, is this person really in it? And I myself, like, when I talk about something that I'm really, really passionate about, it shows very clearly. And so when I'm sitting there, like, explaining these ideas that I have, and like this business that I want to start, and, you know, I'm talking to all these, you know, a few other people about it, and I'm like, I want you to be involved. I want to bring my friends into this who can, you know, it's not just about bringing them in because they're my friends, but more so because I see the talent in them, and, you know, what they're capable of. And I want to try and bring them up to, you know, that same level of motivation. And I think that's kind of what it boils down to. You can be passionate and sit down and kind of tell your idea to everyone that you talk to. But at the end of the day, you know, it's also on them to be motivated to do it and really follow through, because at the end of the day, you know, nothing's going to happen if they're not putting in that same amount of effort.
Mm-hmm.
If it's just you putting in all that effort day after day after day, you know, you're going to get to a point where you're like, well, I'm all out of fucking effort. And it's going to get to a point where you just get burnt out because you don't have any of that support. So I think, you know, I wouldn't look at, you know, going through all those people. I think that's an important part of the process, to really find who shares your vision. Because if you have the wrong people involved, it could go sideways very quickly.
Yeah.
So I think having the right people involved, everyone sharing the same vision, and people really there, you know, behind you and saying, you know, this is an amazing idea. I'm here to support whatever you need. I want to be in this with you. I want to put in the work. You know, I want to put in the time. Tell me what you need me to do, and it will get done. And I think when you bring in people with those kind of mindsets, more like self-starter, motivated doers, you typically can have a better chance of them. But like you said, it's really hard to gauge somebody, you know, just talking to them one time and see where they're at or where their head's at, as far as, you know, what their goals are for, you know, how they want to, like, their career, or what their goals are in life in general. You know, some people just aren't motivated enough.
Yeah.
I think there was like a time where he was telling me all this stuff, like, I want to do this, I want to do this. I was like, you know, that if you give me the go, I'm going to run with it. You know, I was like, so if you're serious, we're going to go. You know, like, I'm going to set up the Instagram. I'm going to start doing the marketing. I'm going to start doing the research. Like, is there anything else out there like what we're doing? You know, kind of see where our competition is. I was like, because when I go, and I don't stop.
And here we are 30 days later.
But that's a good mentality to have, you know. Like, I agree to a certain extent with the ideal of hustling to make things happen, but at the same time, you know, I think self-care is really important. I'm the same type of person. I'm, you know, a workaholic. I thrive off of getting things done and working on new projects and doing things creatively. So for me, like I have that same mentality where like everything constantly for me is just like go, 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 go. And I kind of have to sit back and be like, all right, you need to take a chill pill, calm down, and just like take a day to like relax and unwind. And it's definitely hard to step out of that like kind of zone once you're already in there,
Mhm.
especially when you're launching a brand new brand, whether it's a clothing line or a new photography business, videography business, design, whatever the case may be. It can get very difficult.
Yes, I agree. We are actually talking about that the other day. Like I was telling him, I was like, man, like we need a better schedule because I will work 24/7 and he'll work like 20 hours 7 or something like that, like I mean, I don't know, like 20 hours out of 7 days and I'm like 24/7.
And those
Yeah.
other 4 hours, is he playing video games?
Yes.
I knew it. I knew it.
Yes.
I have to have my breaks. I have to
Yeah,
have my breaks.
absolutely. And I think that's important to be able to like kind of refresh your mind to just like take your mind off that creative aspect and just kind of disconnect. Because if you
Yeah.
don't do that enough, you could definitely get burnt out, and that'll definitely affect your creativity, especially when you're in a business like a clothing brand that you're trying to develop.
Yeah, like we just started, we were like we just need a better schedule. Like we started working out in the morning, so that's like our time. Like we work out, we we have like what, twice a week we at dinner time, like we want to meet up with our friends and like kind of have that time. So we're getting better at it. We were awful at it right after we got married. We were just like work, 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 work. But
Well,
now we're like we need to like chill.
You
Just
need
a little
those
bit.
breaks.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
we do,
and we were thrown into several projects right after we got married. Like there was one of our clients was like, we have 3 videos we need to shoot like right now.
Like they were waiting for us to get back from our honeymoon so that we could like get these things done.
So you went right into work mode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that
Do
was
you guys find it difficult to work as like a husband and wife team? Like, what are some ways that you guys kind of navigate that?
that
Are
is
you still figuring it out?
Yeah, very much. I mean, like our first job we worked together was January 31st. Wait, is it 31 days in January?
Yeah, it was like towards
Yes.
the end of January.
Yeah, it was 30. It was the 31st and the 1st. We had 2 little gigs up in Nashville, and we just went up there and we're like, okay, cool. She had a photo shoot Friday, and I was pretty much like her little assistant carrying the bag with the extra lenses and memory cards and batteries. And I'm just
Yeah,
like, what
that
do you
was really
need?
nice.
Lens, battery, and I just, spent a few hours that night just kind of shadowing her and making sure she had what she needed and she could just focus on, taking photos, which I think was a huge, help for her. And then the next day we had a photo video gig. So it was our first time, and we spent about 6 hours with the band that day running around Nashville, like to different spots. And I'm getting a lot of just like B-roll stuff, and she's doing, but it's primarily a photo shoot, but they wanted to get some video stuff for some content they had coming up. And we started to realize like, wow, we communicate really well. Like when we're working, we back each other up. We make sure that the others got what they need. I mean, it's just like, it just seemed like it was clicking. Like we kind of knew like how to be attentive to each other, but also respectful of our space and what we needed to do in any given moment.
Yeah.
And then over time, I think we worked in a really good way to kind of show that there's a lot of benefit to having video services and photography services bundled. And it became a really good relationship. So over time, that's where like we really spent a lot of time figuring that out and working in some like very different scenarios. And it's all been
Yeah, we were
really
kind of
good.
just like thrown together really. Like it was kind of like, hey, we need photo video. And we're like, okay. And then we just figured it out. But like a lot of times, we just see who's the lead on the job. Like if it's primarily video, I come under him and I'm like, okay, what do you need? What do you need from me? Like how, I do, he does a lot of the research for video stuff, but I'll do research as well. I'll come up with ideas. I'll help him more than like take control because video is more his area. So I think we work really well together in that way. We definitely do not have it figured out like at all. Like we've definitely bumped heads like deadline wise, I'm very much like, we have a deadline, let's get it met. And he's like, do, 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 do,
Is
So
that the
we,
video game playing?
yeah, I'm like, is that video done? So we've had our moments, but it's really about just respecting each other and what we each need to do and who's the boss of that job. Because if we respect each other's areas, then I think it works out pretty well. But we're still figuring it out, for sure.
Yeah. And it takes time.
It does take time.
We're getting there.
We're getting there.
And I think that's really important because communication, whether it's with like a spouse or with a team member, whatever the case may be, that communication line is so important to being able to operate and work together. Because if there's no line of communication and mutual respect, then I mean it's all kind of out the window at that point. So I think you guys are doing good. You guys are doing good. I personally don't have any experience from it, but from talking to you guys, it seems like you guys definitely work well together. So I want to ask you, routines. Do you guys have routines set up that you guys do on a daily basis that like when you're working on your business?
Negative.
Like we are a hot mess, right? I think we are really a hot mess. So we are trying to get better. I think that we had a lot thrown at us around our wedding. We had a lot, we were working really hard up until the day of our wedding. And then after, I feel like we just had so much stuff thrown at us that we're just trying to complete projects. Yeah. I've said that I feel like our workload tripled. So it's which is great. I mean, I'm not complaining, but we haven't had the actual time to sit down. Let's have we have dinner at this time, or we go hang out with friends at this time. We work out this time. A schedule is not something that we have had up until maybe like a week ago. We're trying to perfect it. Try not to sleep in, try not to stay up too late, eat healthy, exercise, and then actually just spend time together, like as husband and wife, so we really don't have a schedule. We're working on it.
Yeah. It's been a huge conversation for probably about 2 weeks, 3 weeks now. We've kind of been back and forth of like, okay, what areas, I guess that first thing you think about is trimming the fat. Like what things need to just be gone right now? Like what would need to be just like gotten rid of, canceled? And then what are the things that we're lacking that absolutely need to be there? Like she said, we've kind of like blocked off our Tuesday and Fridays, and we're finding, a family or a friend, a couple or some friends that we haven't hung out for a while. We make time on those Tuesdays and Fridays. And I say, hey, what are you doing Friday? Let's hang out, because it's important for us. I think it's easy as we work together to just be like, it's just us. Like, it's just us. Yeah. And that can be very unhealthy because we need to be connecting out. Like we're made to be a part of communities in one way or another. For us, it's a very, very fundamental thing that we want in our lives. So that's one thing that we've really attacked. Our physical health too. We've thought, man, like we need to just get in a gym, even if it's 2 or 3 times a week, because even that physical exertion, it has effects on the brain that help with creativity.
All positive effects. The food you eat, the exercising. I mean, those are all so important to like self-care and mental like well-being. Yeah. And a lot of people don't realize that, and I think that's a great point that you made. Like even for myself, when I thought of diet and exercise and stuff, I always thought about it in like the sense of weight loss and, trying to get slimmer back to my high school weight, which will never happen. But I found that sometimes just eating the right things and like going for a run or going for a bike ride or any of those things where you're exerting that type of energy can have like a positive mindset on your whole day, and especially working out in the morning when you're doing all that exercise in the morning. It has such a positive effect on your mind. And I actually based on the routine thing, there's this book that I absolutely love that I definitely recommend you guys should check out. They sell it on Amazon and stuff, but it's called it's about like building a routine, and it's specifically made for creatives.
Oh, yes. Wow.
It's supposed to like sharpen your mind, your focus, all of that. And I've taken a lot of things from that book that have kind of am I 100% on a routine? Absolutely not, because things change every day, and things always come up. So there's not like a set routine, but there's a certain time of day that I look at my email. It's never in the morning. Never check my email in the morning. It's usually like after one, because that beginning part of your day is your most creative time.
Hmm.
So usually that beginning portion of the day is where I take care of like everything I need to take care of as far as anything creative, photo editing, video editing, if I'm working on the website, things like that. And I just time my day out in blocks. And I found that's helped. But another thing was that I read in the book. I haven't, I don't practice this as often as I should. But one of the biggest takeaways that they talk about is you know, spending that 1 hour, when you're having lunch and stuff, what do most people do? They go and they sit on Facebook, they're scrolling, they're eating, they're not really disconnecting. So when they come back from that break, they've been using all that mind power. So they're, fatigued at that point from all the work they've done all day, and then they can't even get to their emails. Um, and one thing I took away from that was they talk about the need to completely disconnect yourself when you take that hour break throughout the day. They're like, eat lunch, go for a walk, but put your phone away. Don't look at your phone. Don't do anything work related. No email, nothing. That's your time to like decompress, get your head straight, and then you come back into the second part of your day stronger. And while I do 100% agree with that, it's definitely difficult sometimes to find that hour in the day when you already feel like you're so stretched thin.
Yeah.
But I think it's really important to have that balance. And, I, just like anybody else, just like you guys, I work on this stuff every day because, not for the sake of, practicing what I preach, because I do believe it, even if I don't consistently practice it because of time constraints and things like that. But I work on myself every day so that I can get to that point where I am like, yeah, I do this shit every single day, and it's helped me, this much. Um, I don't think I'm there yet when it comes to the whole routine thing, but
Yeah.
I do actively work on it. So, last thing I want to ask you, what is the main thing you think stands out about your clothing line? Like, what was the main point of focus that you really thought about and wanted to bring to the brand?
Hmm. I guess for me, it comes back to that honesty, the honesty about failure. I think that there's a phrase out there, and I feel like I've heard it like a little more embellished. It's like, when you fall down, the important part is picking yourself up.
Yep.
But I think someone went a little further and said, sure, but it's how you pick yourself up. And that question, like how do you pick yourself up, it becomes very important, because sometimes we do it in a way that's very, very difficult, and it doesn't seek help. So we're not doing it with aid that could be there. And I think that's going to be the thing, especially in this first phase, that'll really be what will set us apart is the honesty, the realness. Because with the clothing, I mean, we literally have a design that has failure or fail on the shirt, so it's like we want that to be a part that, like, we accept it in all parts of the process, to accept it in all stages, and
It's
I think
part of
that's
everybody's process.
absolutely.
Everybody who's ever owned a business has failed. I failed plenty of times. It happens, and I think that's an important. That's probably one of my favorite. Like, I've heard some people talk about, like at different workshops and stuff, about failure, and this one photographer, John Branch, he is a wedding photographer too. And I watched one of his speaking engagements where he talks about like failing forward, and a lot of it was kind of rooted into that whole idea of, like you said, how you pick yourself up, because it kind of brings you back to the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing expecting a different result. If you keep picking yourself back up the same way every time and you don't change anything, then you're going to get the same result every time,
Yep.
because there's nothing there that's going to change the trajectory of the direction you're going.
Yep. Absolutely.
Well, it was great speaking with you guys and getting
Thank
to hear about
you.
your new brand. I'm really excited to catch up with you guys in a few months and hear how everything is going. And then, like I said, I think it'd be really cool to make this into like a whole segment, so that we can, follow the growth of your business, the journey, the people who are there. And I think a lot of that is really important in kind of putting a face to a new business and showing that it is possible for anybody to start a business, and there's all these failures that come along the way, um, but as long as you take those failures and learn from them and use them as tools for growth, there's a lot of benefit that could be had there, and you could definitely project your guys self forward. So I'm really excited to see where you guys go with this.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're
Thank
super
you, guys.
excited.
Thank you. I know that you are launching tomorrow, so everybody swing on over, pick up some shirts, pick up some clothes. Um, Make sure to check them out on Instagram at BornCreative Official. Their Facebook page is Born Creative, and they have a Born Creative Facebook group. Now, what is your website? Because I know it's not live yet, but it will be tomorrow.
So currently what we'll be launching on is on the millennial site. So
Oh,
we're going to make it,
perfect.
try to make it easy as possible for people. And, we're going to add a link on our Instagram page. We have a link tree set up, so all our links are accessible right there. So we try to make it as easy as possible, like point everybody at the Instagram page, and then they can go wherever they need to go from there. So, so like I said, yeah, we'll be on the brand partners page at millennial.com. We'll be right on there alongside them doing this thing, Born Creative.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very exciting. Well, thank you guys again, Anna and Brent. It was great talking with you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you guys next time.